Hey everyone, my name is Cavon Ray. This is going on my fifth year. I plan to graduate this December in interdisciplinary studies. I've bounced all around, so I don't really have a specific concentration, but I'll jump right in. I chose to cover Family Guy. Um, my little sister watches it almost every night. She's watched every episode, and just listening to it, they cover a lot of controversial topics. I think it's pretty interesting because you can't really tell if they're trying to provide like advocacy and bring light to social issues, or if they're mocking them or using mockery to bring advocacy to them. But even though most of the representations are negative, I do think that there's some truth in the stereotypes that they show and the behaviors associated with them. So I did go ahead and use similar examples in my discussion. There's so many, they use disability a lot. If anyone's familiar with Family Guy, one of their main characters, Joe, is in a wheelchair. He was injured in an accident, and they pick with him a lot. But I'm not really going to focus too much on Joe. Um, but I was able to find a video done by other students at another university that had small clips that had various issues on disabilities. Um, a big thing that I noticed is the language and terminology that is used to refer to people with disabilities. Um, in Family Guy, they're mostly negative and they completely mock the identity of a person that has a disability. Um, the introduction to the first clip, there's two news reporters there, and it's supposed to be like the Special Olympics. Excuse me. And they begin with, "We will see some of Quahog's finest athletes struggle valiantly against God's twisted designs. You'll cheer, you'll laugh, you'll cry. You might even get a cheap laugh or two." And then one of the news reporters responds with, "Well, hey, I know I will." And I don't even really have to say much about that. If you would go as far as saying like God was twisted in the way that he made an individual, that's just really unfortunate that people view anyone with differences in that manner. And then who who's to say what's different and what's the norm? Another example in the second, well, this was in like the next scene. Um, they started by saying, "We'll now start the 100-meter dash for people afraid of yellow tape." And they show people, I guess, that have autism running running a race, and then when they get to the finish line, they're afraid. And that just shows another negative representation, um, a stereotype of people that have autism. Um, then in a different type of video, there's Peter, and he's doing all these absurd activities, and he's blaming them on the R word. Um, he's bursting in restrooms. He went to church and he was throwing Bibles and saying Bible fight, and he was blaming it on being the R word. And then he was driving and he hit another character, and he said, the character that was hit was like, "Oh, aren't you the R guy?" And Peter was like, "Yeah, that's me." He said, "Oh, well, we're not even going to worry about it." Just completely discounted everything that he did, um, because he had not even diagnosed, but because he was referred to as the R word. Um, and then going back to when he was bursting in the restrooms, most of the women responded in pity towards him, saying, "Oh, it's okay." And then there was another woman that said, "Oh, you're so cute. And let me show you how everything works down there." Like, assuming that people don't have intelligence. And, I wanted to connect this to a critical analyzation done by Paul Hunt in 1991. He did a study on how people were portrayed in the media, and he came up with 10 stereotypes of the way people are typically shown. We see these in all types of TV, movies. The first is disabled as pitiable or pathetic. Um, there was actually another episode where there were two people that were in a wheelchair. I believe I'm sorry. I believe they had cerebral palsy and they had to communicate through keypad like they were on the video that we watched. Um, Steven was the character's name, and he rode up to the dog Brian, and he was his professor, and he was communicating with him, and he was talking to Brian and saying, "Oh, well, before I met you, I was wanting to kill myself, and I was just completely miserable," and that just goes along with the stereotype that people are pathetic and they don't want to live, they don't want to. They're miserable in their being because they have a disability, and that's not true. Number two is people with disabilities are shown as an object of curiosity or violence. Then we have number three, they're shown as sinisters or evil. An example of that is like Frankenstein and the Code of Freaks. Um, Number four, the super cripple. Number five, as atmosphere. Number six, laughable, just like how they're being mocked in Family Guy. Number seven, his or her own worst enemy. Number eight, a burden. Nine, non sexual. This was represented in Sins Invalid through art and poetry, and it was shown in a negative way in Family Guy, where the characters that I recently discussed, they were husband and wife, and they had wheelchairs in their bed. Um, so the scene was as they were arguing back and forth like a normal couple. Um, as any couple, any married couple would. I won't say normal, I'll take that away. A random man says, "Hey, don't worry, I heard they have great sex." I mean, I don't understand what does their disability take away from them wanting to have sex with their partner or have the, I don't number 10, unable to participate in daily life. So, in some conclusions I have are the negative stereotypes that are used in the media enforce systemic inequality and poor assumptions associated with disability. The media reinforces these stereotypes and uses the medical model to do so. The stereotypes focus on the disability and not the individual. And it's really unfortunate that an important aspect of a person's identity is made fun of and is reinforced by popular and dominant culture that's manipulated with the use of media. I hope that I covered everything. I hope that you were able to watch the video. If not, please watch it so you understand where I'm coming from. If you have any questions, please let me know in discussion.